let you in on a secret. Last year, I started a Get Shredded challenge. I was getting shredded. One finished book, a wedding in Italy, a wedding in the United States, both of which for my wife and I, and moving my entire company to a new city later didn't really get shredded. I'm not making an excuse, I'm just saying that I chose not to. But as I start things up again, it made me think about you. I know a lot of people may have been in this boat before. Why is it so hard to diet and get healthy? Because most people make a drastic change without thinking about the big picture, when it's actually about the little changes you make consistently. And the secret to doing it right isn't just about how you eat, but how you cook. So here's the chef's approach to make your cooking healthier that'll help you stick to your diet, get healthier, and maybe get you to that goal weight or the incredible pair of buttocks you've been looking for. These aren't just tips. All of these have been verified by a professor of nutrition to make sure it's right for you. So I'm going back on my Get Shredded challenge, and we're gonna do this together. Let's begin.
The heavy cream substitution. This is a big one. You wanna add cream to a curry or really anything? You're missing the creaminess. It's hard to do it without heavy cream. I have a solution that will cut down the calories by probably, 60 to 80%. Take a 2-to-1 ratio of milk to cauliflower, put it into a pot, bring it to a boil until the cauliflower is completely overcooked to a total mush. Strain your cauliflower out, add it to a blender, and use your milk to loosen just until it's roughly the consistency of heavy cream while blending on high. Then optionally, but highly recommended to get some extra lactose flavor, you can add a little splash of heavy cream in there just for mouthfeel. Now you have a very low calorie, low fat substitute for heavy cream. Is it exactly the same? No. Will it get the same results? Not necessarily, but it will get you through your diet. If you want to reduce food waste and have a healthier pesto, instead of throwing away your carrot tops, guess what? You can eat the tops. So for example, make a carrot top pesto. All the same ingredients as a pesto except replace basil or some of the basil with carrot tops. Blend it up and get a boost of vitamin C, calcium, potassium, and you are one ingredient less of a food waster.
Missing the extra fat in your diet kind of drags down the experience of eating something. But there's a way around that. Adding layers of texture, because fat ultimately provides texture. So replace that with layering other ones. Crunch, chewiness, add a little bit of liquid to something. We've said that before, but that's technically a texture, right? I do have a cookbook about that. It's called Texture Over Taste. Maybe you wonder what that's all about. Links in the description.
If you're craving a soda, I've got a replacement. Obviously, juice is not an option. It's got way too much sugar in it to keep you on diet. So instead, fill a cup full of ice. Fill that a quarter of the way up with any juice of your choosing. Now, make sure you keep that juice sub a quarter cup, otherwise the sugar content will go way up. Then at that point, just top it off with seltzer water, add some fresh herbs which have been lightly bruised with a little mix, and you have a nice fizzy flavored drink that's lower in calories, sugar, and will actually provide some nutrients. Non-stick pan. If you don't want to be forced to use lots of oil while cooking, a non-stick pan is the answer to your problems. Obviously, the lack of oil might cause the food to cook a little longer, but you don't need it to cook in a non-stick pan. As a matter of fact, you actually don't need any oil to cook something like mushrooms. You can still get great color and flavor on mushrooms by cooking them with 0 oil in a non-stick pan. That's all mushrooms, no calories. Now I have a make everything taste better sauce. It's very basic. 2 roasted red bell peppers, their stem removed and their seeds removed, into a blender, followed by 4 cloves of garlic, 3 tablespoons of white distilled vinegar, 2 tablespoons of light cream cheese, 1 tablespoon of shiradashi, xanthan gum to thicken, and salt to taste. Blend that on high until as smooth as possible, and that's it. Feel free to add more acid or whatever you want to this, but putting this on a piece of chicken, putting this on some protein, dressing a salad with it, or just dipping raw carrots in it is gonna taste great. Use this to diversify all of your meals to keep them from being boring.
I always miss steak when I'm on a diet. You can't always have your big fatty ribeye. The biggest issue is all of these lean steaks are incredibly chewy and honestly not that flavorful. But there is one, and it is the flank steak. It has the perfect balance to me for high protein, relatively lean, and it's tender, or at least more tender than any of the other steaks you'll ever have. It will satisfy that steak craving.
Embrace acid. If you have a salt restrictive diet, first off, I'm sorry for you. I will never ever manage my salt intake, so sorry to my doctor. But that being said, if you have to, that doesn't mean you can't make food taste interesting. So before adding a little extra salt, maybe try adding some acid. Now, it is different and it's not going to make the perfectly balanced flavor, but it will add intrigue, depth, brightness to what you're cooking. Acid is something every chef uses to amplify the flavor of their food. And you can too. Multi-purpose creamy sauce. Everybody needs this. Okay, you want to dip some baby carrots? Do a little baby carrot time? This is it. This is for you. It also goes on literally anything. So into a bowl, combine 1 cup or 230 grams of full fat or low fat Greek yogurt, depending on your diet, 2 cloves of garlic grated, 3 tablespoons or 45 grams of hot sauce, 1 tablespoon or 15 grams of Worcestershire sauce in a bowl. Wow, that was my best pronunciation of that one. Season to taste with salt and pepper, whisk until fully combined. And at this point, listen, you can add other ingredients. You can add your favorite spice mix or fish sauce, maybe even a spoonful of chili garlic sauce. I don't care. The point is, it's multi-purpose, not gonna be as creamy as a mayo-based sauce, but it's gonna get your fix, and you can add a lot of it on what you're eating. Xanthan gum. Oh man, we're bringing a little bit of that fine dining repertoire here today. If you never heard of this, it is the way that restaurants emulsify and add viscosity and richness to sauces that normally may not have it. This is a hydrocolloid, and it does all magical things such as that. Typically, you would use a fat, some egg yolks to get those emulsifications. This is a calorie-free way to do that with just about anything. It's like a magical dust. My only thing that I would say is that really you should be blending on high speed and adding tiny little microscopic spoonfuls of xanthan gum until it reaches the consistency and emulsification that you would like.
Fun fact, red bell peppers are one of the most nutritious peppers on the planet. 6 times the amount of vitamin C as citrus fruit. It's got some vitamin C. To get the most out of them, you can either lightly stir fry or broil or roast. It's a great way to eat more vegetables. The thing that's great about bell peppers is they're kind of like benign. They're not spicy, they're sweet, they're fragrant, but they're not intrusive. They add a little bit of flavor, but not that much. They're just kind of there and they're nice. Little sweetness. Great into curry, fried rice, soups, stews, chili. You can chop this up and mix it up in your meat for like a meatball. Does that make sense?
Air fry. Obviously, deep frying your food is not really much of an option, but I'm not gonna lie. After all my talking about the air fryer, it does turn out it's not too bad, only if you use a 3-tier setup. Flour, egg wash, and some sort of a breadcrumb. That could be panko, cornflakes, etc. Spritz lightly with cooking spray, pop it into your air fryer, and there's varying temperatures. You can do 375 all the way up to 425 Fahrenheit. And that could be anywhere between 12 to 24 minutes, depending on whatever it is you're frying. So test around, find your best temp and time. But what do you do if you don't have an air fryer, Josh? Well, you can oven fry. It's actually not too bad, but it's definitely not as good. You will have to go at a hotter temperature around 400 to 425 Fahrenheit, and you will definitely have to flip halfway through. Cook times at that temperature can vary between 15 and 25 minutes. So choose your fancy and what you want to spend money on.
An instant way to add diversity to already prepped ingredients that you have, rice paper wraps for spring rolls. Make your own spring rolls, or you can roll them up and then sear them and they get crispy on both sides. It's real nice. So keep a pack of dried rice papers for spring rolls. Take them out, rehydrated water, wrap whatever the hell you want, any protein, any vegetable with any sauce, whatever fits your diet and your macros, and enjoy. It's a healthy way to just diversify your diet a little bit.
Measuring oil. You want more consistency in diet? Let me just make this simple. Don't freehand your oil, okay? This is a great time to practice your cooking skills. And by that, I mean practicing discipline. It seems basic, but trust me, it makes a difference, okay? So anytime you need to add oil to something or fat to something, please do me a favor and measure it with a measuring spoon. 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, however many tablespoons. Just be aware that 1 tablespoon of oil contains 14 grams of fat. And typically I put 3 to 4 in a pan just to start cooking. That is when I'm not measuring.
All right, for all you munchers out there, for all you who like to snack on little things, popcorn. It's underrated, but you can season it with whatever you want if you make it yourself. A little tablespoon of olive oil in a large pot, heat it up hot, add as many popcorn kernels as you're allowed to eat, or if you're sharing more. Lid on, constantly shake over high heat, pop, 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 open it up, you got popcorn. At this point, you can season it with salt or whatever you want. It is a great low-calorie option despite the carbohydrates that are in it.
The cheese sauce replacement. This is one of the most interesting healthy hacks I've ever found. Taking low-fat cottage cheese. I know. Look, I thought it was weird too. I'm like, where's the flavor? You gotta have the fat. To be fair, I do eat it when I'm on a diet to get that extra protein that's low in calories. But nobody really wants to eat it unless you're a bodybuilder. So you take that, you blend it on high until as smooth as possible in a blender, and you end up with this sort of cream. Because of all the stabilizers and hydrocolloids that are in this, it turns into a beautifully glossy, emulsified, almost Mornay-like cream cheese sauce. You can use it as a dip, dressing, or as a replacement to sour cream, or maybe a light mayo.
Chances are you might have to give up bacon, pork belly bacon that is. Let's be honest, turkey bacon sucks ass. So a more flavorful and less congealed product would be either Canadian bacon or English back bacon. Now, depending on what your macros will allow, that is. English back bacon is obviously higher fat, and it varies depending on the brand that you use. But those two options are delicious, high protein, and a great substitute.
Dry rubs and marinades. You got a lot of low-fat proteins, and unfortunately, sometimes that means not a lot of tenderness and not a ton of flavor. Now, that's not always true, but if it is true, keep it simple. Add some dry rubs, spices, or marinades, and let it sit on the protein overnight. Just trust me.
When it comes to dieting, everybody says, oh, eat chicken breast. Use this chicken breast recipe. Chicken breast, breast. Forget it. Use chicken thighs instead. The difference in the amount of fat is negligible, assuming your diet can handle it. It's like an extra 2 to 4 grams of fat, but they're juicier, they're easier to cook. Matter of fact, they're very difficult to overcook, and you're more likely to stay on your diet. whereas chicken breast is the other way around. Hard to cook, they go dry easily, not as much flavor. So you didn't listen to me about the chicken thigh and you're using chicken breast anyway. Here's how you can make it better. After it's cooked, shred it up and toss it with any low-fat, low-calorie sauce. That could be low-sugar barbecue sauce, that could be like a creamy tzatziki yogurt vibe, it could be anything you want. You got a little shredded chicken, put it in a sandwich, eat it over rice. The world is your high-protein oyster.
Cooking vegetables. Big fun fact alert, we are the only animals on the planet that cook our food. But did you know that generally speaking, it is healthier to eat cooked foods than raw ones? Helps make certain nutrients more bioavailable, such as roasting carrots, cooking mushrooms. Many of their nutrients become much more easily absorbable by the human body because they are cooked. Real sorry, it's science.
Which cooking oil for high heat cooking? You see, you can't just use any oil. Smoke point's too low, you burn the oil, free radicals, all sorts of unhealthy carcinogenic compounds, and generally not great for your diet. So you need to use the right oil. And if you don't want to use vegetable oil or canola oil, then the best choices are either avocado oil or animal fat. They both have high smoke points and they're very naturally derived, if you will. It's more of a health thing than a diet thing.
Replace lasagna sheets with vegetables. If you're really craving a cheesy pasta dish, but you can't have carbs, well, I'm sorry, because honestly, I don't know. That said, lasagna is kind of the perfect vehicle for this. Vegetable lasagna is a common thing. Zucchini or eggplant is what you'll usually see, especially eggplant in Italy. So, considering the Italians seem to have relatively approved this one. You slice thin, lengthwise, your vegetables, and just like a normal lasagna, you can use lower fat ground beef and less oil, and of course you can use our blended low fat cottage cheese cream creme, but layer it traditionally, cover it with whatever cheese you can eat, whether that's regular or low moisture, pop it in the oven, cook it down, pull it out, and honestly, it works quite well. Ain't that nice? Lower carbohydrate, lower calorie, still lasagna vibes.
Add moisture to your food wherever possible. That is the answer. The problem with lower calorie, which is typically gonna be lower fat, dieting, is that you lack sufficient moisture, and that's part of what makes food enjoyable. It's not that you just need the fat. I mean, granted, it tastes great. And you can do that with low fat creamy options like yogurt, broths, stocks, salsas, hot sauces. I mean, really any way you want. Those things can be added before cooking, during cooking, or even after cooking. Don't underestimate dipping. You make a sauce that's dippable, that's low enough in calories and fat. It's gonna make it more flavorful, but more importantly, it makes the eating experience more enjoyable. And that's gonna help you stick to your diet. Moist.
Cooking on a grill, an instant way to reduce the amount of fat that you need to use when you're cooking. Obviously, you can heat and cook foods all the way through without needing much oil or fat, and even better, any fat that is on a piece of meat, for example, will drip off into the flames, becoming nothingness instead of onto your thighs.
Big problem. You don't want to break down all those big vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower. You buy pre-cut, which is insanely expensive. Maybe you just don't cut them. Maybe instead you just lightly rub them down with oil and you cook them whole in the oven at around 350 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit till they're cooked through and nicely brown, just like a little roast. And at that point, you can take them out and then just cut them up with scissors as you need them. Then reheat on a plate and enjoy. Unlimited vegetables, very minimal prep time.
The cover while roasting technique. If you want to cook your food in an oven without oil, there's a big problem here. Typically, your food's gonna get dried out, it's not gonna get caramelized properly, so on and so forth. That's why I cook with a lot of oil when I roast. But if you're on a strict diet, I found a trick. Whatever it is you're cooking, lightly oiled vegetables, or in this case, potatoes, cover them tightly with foil. Bake at your desired temperature until just cooked through, then remove the foil. Now, at this point, they're lightly damp, but if they have any oil on them whatsoever, even if they don't, crank the heat all the way up and blast it until it reaches your desired level of color and maybe some extra crispness. Less calories, extra flavor. If you're on a diet and you're missing some sort of cheese, more specifically a cheese pull like this, is that even possible when you're trying to keep your calories low? Yes, it is actually. I'm not a huge fan of the low-fat cheeses. I think they're weird and I don't know how they're made, so I should probably research that. That being said, instead of using full-fat mozzarella, you could totally use low-moisture, part-skim mozzarella. You can buy it in blocks, grate it yourself, and enjoy it. I use this actually all the time, even in my non-diet recipes, just because it gets great cheese pulls and has great mouthfeel. Best part is, it's actually lower calorie. Swap sour cream sauces. So sour cream based sauces, right? Things like mayo, things like Green Goddess. Let me make this really simple for you. Sour cream is already sort of kind of lower fat, lower calorie than other options. But if you swap it with non-fat Greek yogurt, the discrepancy is pretty significant, which is this. Sour cream, 4 grams of protein, 27 grams of fat for 5 ounces. Now for 5 ounces of non-fat Greek yogurt, you got 15 grams of protein and 0 grams of fat. So, do whatever ratio you want that you can within your diet and enjoy.
You can still have a burger and be on diet, but there's a trick. trick. So obviously we all know I'm a big proponent of high-fat ground beef, but that does not keep you on diet. You can literally just swap it with lean ground beef, but don't lose the technique. This is what you do. So you're gonna ball it up and smash patty it just like you usually would with another burger, but you have to be quick here. Keep your heat hotter than usual, sear it and get color on both sides as quickly as you can, because you don't have the fat to rely on. So all you got is the juice that's in there to keep it moist. Another thing you could do is you could even do the Cuban style and add a little bit of sauce on top while it's cooking, so it'll soak up those juices and keep it from being dry and boring. Obviously, the golden rule for fat is 70% lean. That's not diet friendly. So you could use 90 or 95% lean to stay on diet. And fun fact, you want cheese? You could still add American cheese. Is that the healthiest option? No, but it is weirdly macro friendly. I didn't realize that. Maybe because it's not really cheese. So put that American cheese on there. Still gonna hit your macros.
Egg whites. I've never really loved egg whites. I've always seen it as a weird cop-out, but I get it. High protein, blah, 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 blah. But when you're making French toast, okay, this is where things can go from off diet to on diet. Instead of using all whole eggs, just use one whole egg and the rest egg whites to make your custard. Obviously, using whole eggs is not necessarily bad for you, but again, sticking to your diet here, low calorie. Then you just use all your other ingredients that you would usually use. Cinnamon, maybe avoid sugar, right? A little bit of honey. Almond milk or any milk substitute. Dip your bread, cook it as usual, maybe use less oil in the pan. Higher protein, lower calorie, and you still get to eat mother French toast, brother.
Chinese takeout sauces. This seems to be one of the ultimate hacks that I don't see people taking advantage of. Most Chinese takeout things can be made into a macro-friendly or diet-friendly option. The biggest issue is they use so much oil whenever they're cooking it, and I get it. That's really what's taking it out of being macro-friendly, but a lot of them is like lean beef or lean chicken or lean pork in a sauce. Your favorite soy sauce, a little bit of orange juice, lemon juice, some Chinese black vinegar, and then heat it up and thicken it with cornstarch. Reduce the sugar, reduce the oil, and find recipes for takeout that are on diet. You'll be able to continue to enjoy some of your most favorite foods while staying macro-friendly.
If you want to make a viscous sauce, or more specifically a nice gravy without all the fat and the requirement of making a roux, you can make a nice flavorful soup broth or stock, add flavorings of your choice, add some lightly cooked onion to it, 2:1 ratio of liquid to onion, and then cook that down until the onion is extremely soft, while trying to avoid reducing that liquid too much. A lid helps. Add to a blender and blend until as smooth as possible. You're left with a low-calorie, highly flavorful sauce or gravy. I mean, look at this thing.
Extra virgin olive oil can get expensive. A cheaper alternative in moderation would be animal fat. It's high in nutrients that a lot of us don't get, and it reduces food waste. So next time if you're trimming off a steak, maybe save that and then cook it down to your own cooking fat later.
Don't cook your garlic. Well, let me clarify. Obviously, yes, cook your garlic when it's required to cook it, but that being said, understand that if you don't cook it, anytime you add raw garlic that's been processed by being sliced, chopped, smashed, that processing triggers the release of an enzyme called allicin. Allicin is an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and may improve metabolism. Granted, that was only in mice and rats, but sometimes late at night, we can all be a little bit of a rat. Point is, raw garlic is healthy.
This is an easy trick, but a lot of people forget to think about it. You're getting a sweet tooth craving. Well, cherry pie, apple pie. Or maybe you just stop for a second. The easiest swap is obviously replace a sweet craving with a fruit. Now, a lot of the time that surprisingly does work, but I know what you're thinking. Josh, an apple is not an apple pie. Maybe find a way to get it hot. Stew your apple lightly. Add a little bit of crushed nuts on top. You get the crunch, you got the cooked apple. Throw a little cinnamon in there. Now you have the essence of an apple pie without all the sugar, fat, etc. You can stay on your diet.
Curry. A great way to eat more lean protein is to just make more curries. If you're trying to stay on diet and low calorie, then I suggest using low-fat coconut milk or any other cream alternatives we've mentioned, such as the cauliflower method. But really, it's up to you. You may not need to use cream in your curry, which is even better, but the point is, the flavorful way to maybe accidentally eat a bunch of extra protein and maybe some vegetables is to make some form of a curry. It diversifies having to eat grilled chicken breast every single night. Okay? Chicken, fish, shrimp, beef, pork, you name it, whatever's on diet, this is an easy way to eat it. Adding olive oil. If you want to add a surprising addition of flavor and texture while simultaneously boosting the essential nutrients in something like a soup or really anything, add a nice heavy drizzle of extra virgin olive oil, okay? I want that thing as extra virgin-y as you can get it. It adds richness to your food, but it also is incredibly nutritious. Steaming vegetables. Okay, so don't boil your vegetables in water. I mean, you can, but it saps a ton of the nutrients from them, and if you're looking for the vital nutrients that are gonna help you maintain energy, lose fat, all those different things, then really you should either steam them or honestly, surprisingly, surprisingly, microwaving them retains even better nutrients than boiling them. Or just grill them. How about we just all grill our vegetables, because vegetables are always better when you grill them.
I'm tired of sweet potatoes. You gotta be too, all right? It's not Thanksgiving with the stupid little marshmallow topping. Yes, it's a healthy option, but you can still eat white potatoes assuming you're counting your calories and macros. Just don't peel them the next time you eat them, because all the nutrients are in the skin. Let's be honest, white potatoes, from a universal cooking perspective, a little nicer than just a sweet potato.
If you want something more luscious, more fine dining in your typical diet food, I don't know why more people don't think about this. Maybe because it's really expensive, which I can respect. This is a less budget-friendly option, but guess what? Lobster are honestly very low in calories, high in protein, and if you want to keep it low calorie without the lemon and the butter, despite how good that is, you can instead make something like a light dressing, such as a knock mom or a sesame dressing or something vinaigrette oriented. So dress it up if you'd like, place it in a lettuce cup, put it in some buns if you can eat carbs, excellent source of nutrients, extremely lean protein, plus it's fancy as fuck. Bolster your pasta with vegetables. When you can have pasta, but maybe you're restrictive on how much you can have, right? You want a big fat bowl? A great way to still have that feeling is to just add vegetables that blend in with the pasta in a way. Vegetables like zucchini, sliced thin, because it adds a mouthfeel that's reminiscent of pasta while bulking up that bowl and still being able to eat your pasta, and it feels, well, like a sizable portion. Plus, it slows down digestion of those carbohydrates, lower insulin spikes, better dieting. Banana pancakes. If you want a lower carbohydrate pancake, there's all sorts of fancy ways people have tried to do it, and it sucks. This is the only good way that I've found, and that is using a banana as additional starch and binder instead of more flour. So make a pancake batter that has less flour in it. It should be relatively thick, similar to your typical pancake batter, and then cook it as usual. You don't even need to add sugar to this because the banana provides natural sugar for you. And fiber, so good poop. Cauliflower tortillas. Tortillas are notoriously high in carbs. Now listen, you got two options. You can either go corn or you can go cauliflower. I'll talk about cauliflower in a second. Corn is already pretty low calorie, pretty low carbohydrate. Oh, but what if I'm not eating corn? Wait. Okay, then fine. Here's another option for you. Just add the florets of 1 head of cauliflower to a food processor, blend until the cauliflower is riced. It looks like rice. Place the riced cauliflower into a microwave-safe container and microwave that bad boy for 5 minutes. You could also cook it in a pan. After the cauliflower is cooked, place that into a towel, wrap up the ends, let it cool so it's handleable by hand, and squeeze out as much moisture as possible. I did not wait for this to cool because I have asbestos hands. I would not recommend that for you because I don't want you to get a little burn. Now you're gonna add that back to a food processor with 3 tablespoons or 45 grams of arrowroot powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon or 3 grams of fine sea salt, then add half a teaspoon or 2 grams of xanthan gum, 3 large eggs, begin to blend till smooth, 3/4 of a cup or 60 grams mozzarella. Give that another blend a few times until completely incorporated. You get a baking sheet lined with parchment, then spoon that. You're gonna have sort of a soupy mess. Trust me, it's okay. Place a couple tablespoon dollops onto your parchment, spread it around into corn tortilla sized circles. You could also go as large as a burrito if you want. Then once you've filled that out, bake for 8 to 10 minutes at 400 Fahrenheit or 205 Celsius, and you have a flexible, soft, tortilla-like flatbread thing. Is it exactly like a tortilla? Absolutely not. No, it is not. But guess what? You can maintain your diet, keep your carbohydrates extremely low, and have sort of a taco.
Another way to diversify your diet when you start to feel a little bored, make your own sushi. I'm telling you, it's a big secret and you can control the amount of sugar that goes in that rice or take all the sugar out of it. If you think about it, it's literally just rice, vegetables, protein wrapped up in really high nutrient dense nori. Just put whatever you want in it as long as it sticks to your diet, enjoy it, eat it, and you sort of have something that feels like a night out while keeping you on diet.
Spaghetti squash. Sorry, Italians. You like eating a lot of pasta all at once? Here's another solution for you. Again, you can keep your carbs low while having a big bowl of spaghetti because spaghetti squash is, well, to me, visually similar, not necessarily texturally, but somehow it blends in perfectly with the strands of spaghetti. So you're gonna take a spaghetti squash, cut it in half, lengthwise, leave it face down on a sheet tray, and bake it in the oven at around 350 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit until incredibly soft. You pull it out, shred it with a fork, and you end up with very spaghetti-like strands, which you can eat by themselves for a ultra low carb, low calorie version, or mix 50-50 with actual spaghetti to bulk that thing up.
That's a big dub, and you yourself can have any of these dubs anytime you choose. This shows that it is possible to make the things that you love and stay on diet. You're welcome, and good night.